This isn't the final destination of your innovation journey, but it is the next step. Welcome to the Synapse Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Synapse Podcast, Episode 1, where throughout this series we will unveil who we are as Synapse, our why, and who is this for. Today we'll be hearing from some of the people who were here from the beginning of the story, as well as we'll be contributing as well to our impacts and our narrative of how Synapse has transpired and who we are today. So, kicking things off, my name is Basha Ferdinand. I am the Director of Programming at Synapse, and I am joined by...
Hey everybody, welcome to the first Synapse Podcast. My name is Brian Kornfeld. I'm CEO and co-founder of Synapse, and glad to be here and making history, as we like to say, with the first one.
Hi, I'm Lauren Prager. I'm Chief Strategy Officer, and how exciting. We've been talking about doing a podcast for a super long time, you guys. So years in the making. So I hope it lives up to all of the expectations we've set for ourselves. It's a high bar.
I hope so. I'm Wes Lehman. I am a fractional CMO by day and insert adjective marketing here for Synapse by night.
Guru.
Savant.
all the things.
I don't know about that.
Awesome. Well, let's kick things off with who is Synapse. I think it'll be good just to give an overview for those who may or may not be familiar with us. Brian, we'll start with you, and then Lauren will get your perspective.
It's such a loaded question that can be answered in so many different ways, because, Synapse is a movement. Synapse is here to help make Florida the world's next great innovation community, helping people find what they need and share what they have. But that's just kind of what we do. Synapse really, though, is the community. Synapse is all the people who come together who want to grow companies, who want to make Florida that much better, who want to create new innovations, things the world, 99.9% of the world can't even imagine. And that's going to change the world for the better. And Synapse is here to help to enable that, help to make sure that it can happen in a sustainable way. And it's all a community of supporters around the state.
I like to focus on our why, our big picture why. Why does Synapse exist? Why are we building this community? And it's to make it easier for the innovation talent in our state to connect and to thrive. And we talk about creating opportunities to celebrate, discover, and engage with innovators. And when you think about the impact that creating community around this shared passion for improving society, tackling a problem, not just with ideas, but with action and execution, you have a really powerful why as to the need to bring all of these different players and components and stakeholders that contribute to making innovation possible together. And that's our why. And, in the past 5 years since we launched, it's really borne itself out and continues to solidify and be validated by our partners in the community all across the state and the country and even the world who have leveraged the Synapse community as a way of understanding the rich tapestry of innovation here in Florida.
Lauren will now be mailing a check for $10 to Simon Sinek for starting with why.
Love that. Both of you have mentioned community and innovation talent. I would love to hear from your words. How would you define innovation, or what is it, and through the lens of Synapse?
Innovation is the desire to create change and the action to execute on it. And as our good friend of the community and member, Jeff Hoffman, likes to say, ideas are valued and execution is worshipped. And when you think about innovation, it exists really in every aspect of our society, our culture, our life, not just how we work. Most people think innovation is synonymous with technology, and we work really hard to be very inclusive, broaden the aperture, open the aperture, as I like to say, and really encourage our community to think about innovation beyond traditional technology. And when you do that, you really enable this to be a very dynamic community of creators and doers and thinkers and people who don't normally imagine that they're part of an innovation community, myself among them, and see that they have something really important to contribute. And that's the magic of the community that we create when we allow ourselves to be really inclusive about how we think about innovation.
I see innovation a lot in terms of problem solving. Taking real world problems, things that exist on a day-to-day basis, and they may be major, they may be minor, they may just be problems within yourself and innovating with yourself, and that happens all the time, and finding a new solution for it, finding a new way to get from point A to point B, and to really try and put forward that effort. It's that willingness to dream, and to think about making that world a better place, and no matter what frame or lens that you view the world in, and then not just to dream and to envision what it might look like, but to actually do it. It's one of those things, exactly like Lauren was talking about, a lot more than just saying, hey, I have an idea. It's also the willingness and the courage to spend the time investment, or whatever investment it might be, to act and to move forward. And that is where successful innovation comes into play. Ideas can be a dime a dozen. Anybody who goes around and says, I'm a great innovator, I have amazing ideas, I'll always ask, what have you done with them? Like, where have they gone? And that was part of my motivation way back in the day for becoming an entrepreneur, was having ideas, tons of ideas. I write them down, take them in phone notes, have them on papers, and acted on absolute zero of them for a long period of time, until I had enough confidence in myself that I thought I was going to be able to do something meaningful and special. And it took a long time for me to be able to get there. So that willingness to act, the willingness to execute, and to solve the problems creates true innovation.
Love that.
Yeah, it's really like a group of people who are just very intentional. It's a group of intentional people. And it's one of those things where I couldn't find that community before Synapse. And until I found that, I was like, oh, that's like the hole in my heart that I've been missing. And because I just always thought I was weird and different, and that I cared too much about too many things. I worked too hard and I cared too much. The two biggest flaws you can have as a person, right?
Did you get that in an interview? Someone interviewed?
Michael Scott. And then just finding that and I remember being at one of the summits and being like, that's what it is. That's the underlying factors. Everyone here is intentional. So if you're intentional, this is probably the community for you.
Well, and the fascinating factor of this is innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It does not happen solo. A lot of people think they can be that solo visionary, that solo genius, and I would encourage you to find people who are like you. That's one of the things I love about the Synapse community. It's a very safe space to try something new, or to build with new people, to connect with people who are like you, who are thinking like you, and to go forward. And I remember I've had a lot of confidence in myself at different points, and I still do, but there one team meeting, I remember I said I was going to do something, and I was going to go off and do it on my own, and a former, well, he's sometimes former, sometimes active, Bob Dixon, just a friend of Synapse, took me aside. He's like, there's no solo genius here. Like, get the input, be a part of a team. And it really took me aback. And these are the things that, happen all the time. And the willingness to listen, the willingness to learn, the willingness to overcome. That was a moment for me where I had internal innovation and problem solving.
The richness of this community lends itself really well to the points that both of you made, because oftentimes the builders that we work with are heads down building their businesses or part of their team or their product or whatever it is, and they may participate in community activities, but they're usually really focused on whatever their vertical is based on industry or business or just your proximate community. And at Synapse, we try to create really welcoming spaces and opportunities to get outside of that proverbial comfort zone and to break down the silos. And that inspires innovation in and of itself. And when you have an opportunity to learn about ways that new ideas or technologies are being leveraged that could benefit you in some aspect of your life or your work, when you're having opportunities to understand how technology is overlapping in different industries and evolving, or even if you just have a safe space to learn about something that's completely new and maybe you've heard about but you just never had the opportunity. That's what the Synapse community is really all about. It's about taking the moment to learn from each other and to really bring together, and that's another reason I'm excited about this podcast, because we're going to be able to share the experts in our community and help them not only share their personal journey and their stories, but educate all of us about the topics that are really critical to not just supporting innovation, but really changing our society, our community, our world, and to learn from each other. So, you get perspectives of innovation from anything from the culinary and visual and musical arts to cybersecurity and defense tech and virtual reality and all of the traditional kind of tech-driven disciplines. Really, we've seen over the last 5 years since Synapse became a community, a lot of new ideas and opportunities have emerged as a result of those intentional and curated interactions and collisions, and that's really powerful. And it's that's part of the why that we do this.
Lauren, you touched on a little bit on the safe spaces to learn something new, and I think that's something that's really important. Your story, I'd love for you to talk about your story, particular with what you've been learning in on the Web3 side, because that's something that's new, it's upcoming, and it is starting to become present, and that you've really dove into head first to learn a lot more about, and why you wanted to learn about it, and a little bit more. I think that could be a good thing for the audience here.
So the context is, I guess, that I consider myself the Luddite of the group. I think, like a lot of members of the Synapse community, there's so much to know and you never kind of feel like you know it all, and that's good. So, just over the years, having had the opportunity to meet lots of different members of our community and ask questions is really the key. And whether that's about Web3 or about understanding blockchain and cryptocurrencies and the social impacts of things like the metaverse, but other topics that for me were really brand new. It's really all about asking questions and the generosity of this community to answer them. That's just been so powerful. So for me, that's been a lot of topics, not being afraid to ask questions and really often finding that many of us have similar questions. We're just maybe a little reluctant to be the one to ask. It opens up a lot of new doors for education and information, and people are really willing to share what they know, what they're excited about, what their concerns are, and you can really source opportunities to not just learn, but to collaborate as a result. So I'll leave it there for now. We'll do a future one about Web3.
Love that. Each of you have touched on and covered different things of our why and our story, but I would love to just go back briefly, just 5 years ago. What problem were we solving? And then I would love to hear both of you guys' perspectives, because Brian, being that you're local to Florida, and Lauren, being you've lived here for several years at this point, but you definitely have that outside land view and perspective and able to see the trajectory of how the community has grown. So I would love to hear 5 years ago, what were we solving? How did the community exist from there, and how has that led to where we are now?
Going back, 5, 6, even 7 years ago, it was a very different place. The entirety of the state of Florida, the way that the world worked, it was pre-pandemic. We've had so many people move to the state. We've had a lot of eyeballs on the state, a lot of eyeballs on Miami, and it's really easy to forget just how different it was 5, 6, 7 years ago in terms of the innovation community. And I'm sure we'll have future podcasts where we'll all get really in depth into our personal stories. And for me, I was struggling as an entrepreneur, working side hustles, and part of my side hustle, I noticed that there was a lot of inefficiencies, and it was just really hard to connect with people on a business level that you should be connecting with. One of them in particular, I was running a software development company on the side of my day job, and somebody came up to me at a networking event, and we started talking, and he pretty much said to me, "Where have you been for the last 2 years? Because I could have been spending you hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of business. But 2 months ago, I met another partner who runs something like you, and I signed an agreement with him that I would send it to him." And I had been to the same events with him. I'd known him. I had probably 50 or 60 mutual Facebook connections, and nobody thought to put the pieces together. And internally, I started thinking there's got to be a better way to do this, and started digging in, started asking more people, kept hearing there's no money, there's no talent, there's no customers, and none of that made any sense. So I really, alongside a number of people in the community, far too many to name, we started to really dive in and understand that the true problems were it was really hard to connect. There was no organization. The large companies weren't getting involved locally. The news was not telling the good stories, and some educational components were lacking. And that is all pretty actionable with a framework and by setting up community. And so, I mean, just to break down the problem, it was hard. It was too hard, and the community wasn't here. There was no place to go. There was no coffee shop to just go sit in and meet people. There was no real sustainable networking activations, and all of that made it so there was this myth that innovation would be impossible here, or nearly impossible, other than a select lucky few. And it just wasn't the reality. We just had to uncover some of the details and help people all run in the same direction, really be a rising tide that can lift all the boats up, because all the boats were present. They just either kept crashing into each other or going separate directions and running into ports or running their own way.
So, like I said before, I'm the least technically inclined of the group. I have a background in what I now realize is really all about community building. And when I moved to Florida, I had led my entire career really focused on building community and shared values around things that were really much bigger than any one person or company. It was really about finding the common threads that connect us. And so when I got involved as Synapse, as a volunteer before the first Synapse Summit, helping to put together the program, I had the gift of getting an excuse really to talk to people in our community, having no background in business and venture and the technical side of things. And so I asked a lot of questions, and what really impressed me and why I was so proud and pleased to move from volunteer to team member ultimately was that this is a really generous and knowledgeable and passionate community, and people want to help each other. And when we have opportunities to really curate those connections and help people make valuable partnerships or find what they need and share what they have, which is something we talk about often, is really very rewarding. And we saw this community naturally gel, and the energy and excitement of everybody working together, coming together. So all of those disparate pieces that Brian was talking about really just needed an organizing principle, and that's what Synapse has become. There's an architecture to our initiatives, a method to the madness. We don't talk about it a lot. It's not the sexiest part of what we do, but there really is. And that really underscores every aspect of the programming that we do, or the consulting that we offer, and the way that we help to shape and connect folks across the state. And when you have that framework, it actually makes it so much sense to create some structure. And then we kind of punctuate that through these amazing and fun celebrations that we're able to bring together in person in the community. So it's that's the way that we've been able to kind of solve for that, and seeing it, coming from as an outsider to Florida, and now coming as an outsider to, innovation and technology, and now being a part of it. It's gelled in such a cool way. And And Synapse has become synonymous with innovation and community in Florida. And that's amazing. I mean, we're a small nonprofit organization. We are not some big behemoth. And it's really because it's community driven and community focused. On our list of values, community first is the number one value. And I think that's reflected in how this has evolved. And it's just a lot of fun, you know, and the most entertaining option is always the most successful. So here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, I mean, even from my perspective as well, you know, being a Tampa native, one of the few that's still here, residing here. It's funny, I run into people and like I get high fives because it's like I'm a unicorn at this point. But being able to see or think back even from where I was in the community, just getting started in the innovation space and seeing how the community has come together and has grown and become more connected. And I won't say not just only to us, but, you know, leading with us for sure, with the community we've cultivated, with sharing those stories, to your point, Lauren, and celebrating, discovering, and engaging, and now pulling other people into that. But I will be honest, we still have more work to do, and, you know, it's going to take all of us for sure. And so from your perspective, what would you say is maybe one of the challenges we're facing right now, and how can others, or what are we doing to solve that, and maybe how can others rally with us as well to address those?
I get the hard questions. Okay.
I'm happy to jump in. Go ahead.
The challenges with this, one of the hardest things that we do is try to make sure that we can live the messages that we're speaking. And it comes very natural to us, but collaboration is a word that a lot of people use a lot, connectivity. And a lot of people try to be very collaborative or attempt to be. And when we go and we start talking to organizations and we start saying what we do and why we do it and how we do it and who do we want involved, like, oh, you actually are living your words. And it's really trying to get that outbound. One of the other big challenges that I would say beyond that is helping people understand that they probably are a part of the innovation community, whether they realize it or not. Like Lauren was saying earlier, the culinary world, the arts world, so much in the talent world, so many companies are going in the high-tech space. I think I read a report yesterday at PwC that said a high percentage of companies are going to be doing things in the metaverse in the next 12 months. And I don't know if that was just Fortune 500, because obviously there's going to be a lot of companies that don't yet, but even things like a POS system, a point-of-sale system in restaurants is now super high-tech, and we've had some very successful startups come out of the state of Florida in that space, and it's making the restaurant world be a part of the innovation community. And so understanding that this community is welcoming for you, and this community wants you to be a part of it, and helping the people who are there to understand that if you join communities like this, your possibilities become endless. They become open, they become infinite of what can happen and how you can transform yourself, your life, your career trajectory, and finding ways, like Wes was saying earlier, like filling that hole, filling those gaps for yourself, that can really propel you to a whole nother level.
Yes to everything Brian articulated. The additional opportunities, I'd say, is to encourage innovation, community participation from growth and corporate companies. And I think that's really important. A lot of times people think innovation, they think startups, and that's for sure true. When you start a company, in theory, hopefully, you're creating something that nobody has done before, and you believe you are the best person to solve that problem. But there are a ton of companies here in Florida that are thriving, that are growing and scaling at unbelievable rates and doing really, really impactful work. And because they're heads down doing that work, we often don't get a chance to hear from their leadership or understand the impact that they're making, because they're just doing it. And so finding them and telling their stories and helping them be positioned so that they can inspire the community at large and the legacy of Florida innovation, because it is a really rich legacy that we have. This is not just a new thing that, a switch that flipped on a few years ago. This is, decades and hundreds of years really in the making. But making sure that this is a community that reflects people at different stages of business and different industries is really, really key to opportunity, let's say. And to that means also making sure that we are finding those stories and telling those stories. And we talk a lot about passing the mic. It's both literal and figurative, but making sure that the stories and insights, the successes and the failures of the community are we're able to share them and learn from them and support each other when we need and celebrate each other when we can. That's really key. And then I think the other challenge is to enable there to be collaboration, not just amongst industries, but really amongst communities. And I came from a different part of the state where, you were running into people on the metro or on the buses, or there was kind of like 3 coffee shops we were all in, and you just kind of saw people on the regular. And Florida is really, really big, and we are a car-centric culture, so a lot of us are kind of commuting, or now we're at home, and you don't have those opportunities for serendipity the way that you do in other markets. And that creates a lot of challenge. It is opportunity, but it is also a challenge, because sometimes you don't even realize who works in the same building that you do or on the same block. And when you're looking for the partner, the client, the customer, the talent, the investor, the co-founder, whatever the need is, they could be right there, but we don't know. And so, part of the reason why we've developed engaging in-person opportunities is to create more opportunities for serendipity. And that is, again, borne itself out. But, as we continue to see unbelievable strides in each different corner or region of Florida, and in a lot of ways, them, everybody kind of coalescing around a particular industry or a particular vertical, or gathering together, it creates more opportunity to shine a light on those accomplishments, not because Synapse says that they exist, but because the local markets believe that there is opportunity to really focus on a successful path and the industries or technologies and the talent in their community. And so we have this opportunity that's a lot of fun to shine a light on those and invite them in to tell their stories. And so when people know what they're looking for, they can have a point of entry into each part of our state and continue to help it all thrive.
Awesome. So with that being said, and thank you for that overview, and I think it is helpful to know like where we are, how people can engage with us, and what's upcoming, and some of the issues that or challenges and opportunities that we're facing as a community. I think that leads into what's next for Synapse. What's upcoming? How can people further get involved? What are the appropriate channels for people to engage with us to make sure we are hearing their stories, we are getting them plugged in and passing the mic?
Synapse is a 365-day-a-year organization and community. We connect constantly with each other and look for opportunities to get out into the community. So one is be in touch and just let us know what's happening. A lot of the work that we do happens behind the scenes. Tons of conversations. Each of us on our team has a full dance card with meetings and gatherings and really trying to understand what's going on in the community, what the community needs. And the punctuation marks throughout the year are these events that we've become most known for. We did not set out to become an events organization, but there was a vacuum in the community. There's not another place where anybody can go, a single place, and really see the innovation community from across the entire state of Florida. That's what Synapse Summit does. And that's why it continues to grow year after year, because we are able to create this environment, this special and very sacred space, I believe, where people really feel welcome to show up, to bring themselves fully, to share their knowledge, and connect and meet. And you'll see people there from Pensacola to Miami, from Jacksonville to Naples, from the Space Coast to Lakeland, and of course all across Tampa Bay who come together in this space. So that really does make a difference. So we're most well known for the events for Synapse Summit that we've been hosting now for 5 years. And then even expanding into Orlando at the invitation of the local community, which is really important, understanding who we are. Synapse didn't just show up and plant a flag and say, we're here, everybody show up, we're going to party at a motorcycle bar in downtown Orlando. We really worked hard to cultivate a relationship with the leadership of the economic and innovation community in Orlando. And when the Orlando Economic Partnership came to the 2019 Synapse Summit and saw the way we brought community together and the energy we were able to align in one place, the density and excitement, they said, would you partner with us to bring a similar event to Orlando, but one that really reflects the uniqueness of the Orlando region, which is huge. It's 800 square miles. It goes from the center of the state all the way to the Space Coast, and there's a lot going on there. And so that's why we created Synapse Orlando, and now are preparing for our third event. We obviously had to take a year off for COVID, but 2019, 2021, and then this October 21st will be our third Synapse Orlando event, where we'll host it in the Performing Arts Center. Again, a space that has theaters that we won't use because we want people to engage in a space where there are no physical barriers to learning and engaging. So we set up stages in the hallway and don't put up barriers. There are no doors. There never is that awkward moment where you're like, should I walk into the room? Or I'm not into this topic. I want to do something else. Should I leave? No, none of that. We really want to remove barriers for education and accessibility. And that is an incredible experience when you're in that sort of space and you have this density. So we'll host it again with our partners at the Orlando Tech Council, part of the Orlando Economic Partnership, to bring this to the community. And so these events, like I said, I think of them as punctuation marks in the narrative that we tell all throughout the year about innovation across the state of Florida. So those are opportunities, and we are always looking to know who we should pass that literal mic to. And I'm looking at Basha across the table for those of you who are listening, not watching. And she's done just such a masterful job in curating the panels and listening to the stories of the people in the community and seeking out the talent so that we can hear from those who don't often get a chance at the mic but should, and creating a story about what's going on in each region. And it's not an easy task at all, but she does it with so much grace and talent. It's fun to see the product of that. So that's a big part of why we put these events together. And it's very cool. It's the marquee innovation event for the entire state. People fly from all over the world to come to a Synapse event, literally, because it's the place you can come to see what's happening and meet people and figure out, should I move my family here, my company here, my venture capital firm here? How
many stories have we heard of people going, I came and I realized what's actually here?
So many.
Countless.
Yeah, and then months later they're living here, move their company here, etc.
Proof of life.
Yeah.
So that's part of the why, again, the why of why we do this. And if it doesn't work anymore, or the community's like, we got it, we're good, we'll reassess. But for right now, the community keeps asking, for opportunities to partner and bring more gatherings like this together.
Absolutely. So I want to make sure I call out that date again. That was October 21st in Orlando. And registration is currently open for those who are interested to attend and celebrate with us.
At synapseorl.com.
Thank you. Speaking of, I think there might be another special date or special announcement, I should say, that we can...
the moment everyone's been waiting for. We officially have the dates locked in for Synapse Summit 2023 on February 14th of 2023.
You're going to love it.
At Amalie Arena. Synapse Summit will be back. Valentine's Day.
Because Florida loves innovation.
And innovation loves here.
I can't say it with a straight face.
I can't.
Try to get through that.
We're trying. We're trying.
Hashtag.
I know. But you know what? I think it's a very cool opportunity to lean into the cheese, because those of you who know us know that we're not shy about, some cheesy.
We've been cool for so long. We need to cheese it up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
We'll
only
lean into the wine
That's
too.
what
while
it
we're
is.
at it.
only the people who don't know our community think that. But okay, so don't lose me here. Okay. Think about what it means to appreciate and connect, and to, yes, there's romantic love, but there's love in lots of different ways. And we are really, really fortunate in our state and in our community to have such a supportive environment and to show appreciation. And I kind of think that if you think about the meaning of Synapse Community, and yes, it's Valentine's Day, but, chocolates and candy hearts aside, there is an element of what it means to support each other, to show humanity, to have grace, and to work collaboratively that is reflective of what it means to be a part of the Synapse community. I mean, those are the people that are part of our community. And so I'm actually interested, to see how we can bring that message together. I think we're in a point where, that sort of connectedness is so powerful. We saw it when we all gathered at Synapse Summit this past year for the first time since the pandemic, and just that excitement to be together. And that's really what it's all about. So actually, yes, cheesiness for sure. But I feel like we need a playlist for this Synapse Summit that leads. Playlist. Okay, we're going to put together a playlist. Also, but just to show appreciation, to respect each other for our unique contributions is really, really special. So stay tuned. More on that as we get a little bit closer into this. But, Florida does love innovation, and that's a good place to be.
Yeah. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
I don't know what else there is to add to that. That wouldn't just be completely cheesy on top of everything. I'm just really excited. It'll be back for our 6th Synapse Summit. And going back to what that first one was like, and then the growth and the maturity. And it really echoes and parallels with the entirety of our innovation community and how much it's matured over the last 5-6 years, and where it's going. And it's time for everybody to really step into it now that we are a mature innovation community, and we're really growing up. And so even like what Lauren was saying earlier with the growth stage companies and the higher level companies, and now we're starting to see also the fruits of some exits take place, and we'll start to get to see how that happens with us as a community, and learning from one of our original sponsors and someone who has been a good support of the community, Arnie Bellini. One of his quotes, something that he said: the first third of your life you learn, the second third you build, the third you give back. And we're, as Synapse and as this, we're probably getting into that second wave, but we love engaging with companies and people who are in that third wave and in that first wave. So it's going to be a really compelling set of stories for this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. Mark it on your calendar now, so this way you're not missing it. And make sure to sign up early, because there will definitely be some benefits for people who are in earlier.
All right. You've heard it here first. February 14th, 2023. Well, great. Well, thank you both again for your time and sharing and openness about not all things, but just this one little pinpoint of Synapse and who we are, and our why. I think it's very telling to hear it from both of you's unique perspectives, but ultimately it's a part of the story, and I'm looking forward to what's next and who we're going to feature in the future.
Absolutely. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
All
That's
right.
a wrap.
Okay.
Yeah. We're doing it again.
All right.
Gonna edit that one out again. Edit out.